William Holden.
Plum gentle.
Ryan O'Neal.
Ain't that just like a woman, though?
I said, you know what? You have an Academy Award, don't you? For Stalag 17. He said, yeah, I do. Where do you keep your Academy Award? And there's a long pause, and he said, it's in the Bay of Naples. I said, the Bay of Naples? You took it and you threw it into the Bay of Naples? He said, yeah. He said, I was sorry about it. The next day, we were all diving for it.
Welcome to A Word on Westerns. Today, we are fortunate to have an actor who is an Oscar-nominated performer. He's been in many huge moneymakers, and he did a Western that is so special with William Holden. He's going to tell us about it. His name is Ryan O'Neal.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, pal. Well, I want to know.
I have nothing to say.
William Holden and Ryan O'Neal are the Wild Rovers.
That's a terrific film. Blake Edwards not only directed it, but he wrote it. He had started as a writer. He used to write on radio, The Richard Diamond Show, and the Peter Gunn, he created that and wrote a lot of scripts, but a Western, he must have loved doing that.
I remember I used to ride, because Blake got to take a helicopter, so we would go from location to location, and Bill and I would drive in his beautiful 600 Mercedes, and long drive, so I had time to ask him all about his career. And I remember asking him, I said, how many movies have you been in? And he said, 66. I said, is that 66 leading ladies? You had 66 leading ladies, and we're driving here by ourselves? And he said, well, some of them were my horses. I always liked that.
Hey, Ross, you busy?
What's up?
Well, nothing right now, so I think I'm gonna go play some poker.
I think I'll just stay right here.
He was a great horseback rider, too.
He was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
He was brilliant. He wasn't kidding around, but he had started, well, I guess after Golden Boy, he was in Arizona,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of Westerns.
Right, he and Glenn Ford at Columbia did several films together.
He and Glenn Ford?
Yes.
He didn't mention Glenn. He told me that his name was Billy Beadle, and he was from Pasadena, California, and he had a contract that was split between Paramount and Columbia. I think they each paid him $50. And he got a call to go over to Columbia to meet with Harry Cohen about this movie that they were going to make called Golden Boy, a boxing story. A Broadway hit, by the way, for years with John Garfield. And but the publicist at Paramount said, Beadle, we can't use Beadle. We have to change your name. And he had a friend at the Los Angeles Times named Bill Holden, a sports writer. So he called Bill Holden and he said, we have an actor here and we'd like to use your name. And he said, well, can he act? And he said, we're going to find out. So that's how Bill Beadle became Bill Holden.
Yeah, he got the job, and I heard that Barbara Stanwyck took him under her wing and mentored him and helped him through that major film because he was a little nervous about a role of that size.
He sent her flowers for her birthday her entire life.
Mm-hmm. So she must have been helpful.
Every birthday, a dozen roses from Bill Holden.
Well, you are quite the film buff, too, I know.
I know who Henry Brandon is.
Yeah, well, and Henry Brandon, for those of you who don't know, Henry Brandon was Chief Scar and had been...
The Searchers.
In The Searchers, and had been a contract player at Hal Roach Studios. He played Indians several times.
Oh, many times. He was from Germany originally. His name was Brandenburg. And he was a friend of the family. He was a wonderful man, made me want to be an actor. If they were all like Henry, I wanted to be an actor.
What made it about him that gave him that stature, that presence, that made you
Well,
say,
he was 6'4".
Well, that helps.
And very handsome and funny and charming. And he just epitomized what I thought actors were like.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever talk to him about The Searchers?
Probably, but nothing to tell you.
Those are the stories.
Because he was in
wanna
lots
hear.
of movies. You could talk to him about all kinds of different parts he had.
He had played in the Laurel and Hardy film Babes in Toyland. He was Silas, who wanted to take the Mother Hubbard's shoe away.
As a child, we've argued about this.
No, he's not as a child. He was young, but he was probably in his early 20s, and they put a big top hat on him. Everybody knows Henry Brandon from that film, right? Two people.
Two's enough.
Something that I'd like to know about, when you grew up in L.A.
Yeah. Didn't everyone? My father was a screenwriter. He wrote a Western, actually. He wrote Return of the Bad Men with Randolph Scott and Robert Ryan. In fact, he got all the bad guys from the Old West and put them in one gang for Randolph to take on.
That was a big hit, too. I think Lawrence Tierney might have been one of those bad guys in that film.
I hope not.
He was a bad guy.
He played my father in Tough Guys Don't Dance. I remember his, he had a photo, a fan photo that you have to give to people who would like it. His was the police dragging him towards a squad car. and he had blood all over the side of his face. I said, this is the picture that you give to your... He said, what's wrong with it? He was the brother of Scott Brady.
Yes.
And he did lots of Westerns.
Scott did, sure. Shotgun Slade. But Lawrence Tierney, he liked to cause tension wherever he went, I think.
He was sober by the time I got him. So he was calmer. He was a little calmer, yeah.
There was a show that I watched growing up called The Many Loves of DOBIE GILLIS. And
I got my Screen Actors Guild card doing that.
well, and Robbie and I watched that episode just yesterday.
Oh, I hope not.
We did, and part of what made it appealing to me as a kid who is a teenager was the same thing that made it appeal to Robbie and me again last night, is that luscious, creamy Tuesday Weld.
I worked with in that show with Les Brown Jr. Les Brown Jr. was my partner in it, and so was Marlo Thomas. She is also in that episode. Perhaps you don't recognize her
I
because
didn't
she
recognize.
had a nose just like her dad.
That's right. I saw that and I'm going, this girl is
And
really familiar.
She was a kind of aloof, too. I remember I was hoping for nice, warm, friendly people. And just Les Brown Jr.,
Well,
who I went to high school with. I had known him for some time. But I was in The Virginian. I did a Virginia with Lloyd Nolan and Chris Robinson and Two Faces West.
Two Faces West.
I was in that for Screen Gems.
That's a good one.
And I worked with Charlie Bronson on a series called Empire. I learned a great deal about the business from Charles and Bronson.
And Empire was a series that predated Dallas as a modern-day Western. Richard Egan, Terry Moore,
Bronson,
Charlie Bronson. What a great
Warren
cast.
Vanders, Ann Seymour. Yeah. I want to tell you a story about Bill Holden. So we're working on Wild Rovers. We're in Kanab, Utah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. And the nominations came in. And I'm on it. I'm nominated for Best Actor. I couldn't believe it. But so was George C. Scott for Patton. So I didn't hold up much hope, and then I kind of poo-pooed the whole thing. And Bill Holden said, he scolded me. He said, no, you can't do that. This is your peers who voted you, and you are. I said, you know what? You have an Academy Award, don't you? For Stalag 17. He said, yeah, I do. And I said, and you have a home in Hong Kong, and you have a home in London, and you have in Africa, East Africa, you have the Africa Safari Club, and you have a place in Palm Springs. Where do you keep your Academy Award? And there's a long pause, and he said, "It's in the Bay of Naples." I said, "The Bay of Naples? You took it and you threw it into the Bay of Naples?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I was sorry about it. The next day we were all diving for it, but we never found it. We never found it."
Oh, I didn't know that.
I said, "Well, if I win, I'm not throwing mine anywhere."
And that nomination was for Love Story.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Love Story.
Well, and speaking of a Love Story and Ali McGraw, you and Ali have been touring with Love Letters, I think.
Yes, we have.
I'll bet that's fun.
She still keeps her hotel room door locked. What could I do?
Steve McQueen, I think, broke it down one time.
More than once.
Well, in that movie, The Wild Rovers, I know that always Blake Edwards had Henry Mancini score the films, and Hank was involved in another movie, and he had Jerry Goldsmith, who had scored Chinatown and Planet of the Apes, do the score for the film, which is a terrific soundtrack to that.
Well, you know, that's after we finished the production, the music comes in, so I was surprised when I heard it, actually. Because Henry Mancini was my neighbor, and I said, "What happened to you, Henry?"
He was a busy boy.
Yeah.
Joe Don Baker and Tom Skerritt played Carl Malden's sons who were chasing you.
If the sheriff has to stop, then you keep right on going and bring those cowboys back, you understand?
Dead or alive?
Alive, of course. That is, if they give you that choice.
A great cast.
And, you know, I thought I was a pretty good rider, but they gave me a mule to ride in the movie. That was a story point. They're not as easy to ride, mules. In fact, they're almost impossible. So I was getting bucked off all the time. And luckily it was winter and it was snow, so you landed soft.
Your relationship with Peter Bogdanovich generated 3 really wonderful, timeless movies. What's Up, Doc was one of the great, it's a classic movie, just like Bringing Up Baby.
And this is Ryan O'Neal. You remember him from Love Story and Peyton Place and Games, and The Big Bounce was one of his bigger hits. Also a Warner Barbara Streisand over here. You remember her from Funny Face? Excuse me, Funny Girl.
Paper Moon. I watched that again last night.
They were singing it, the song.
Yes.
They sang the song.
I wonder why they picked that.
Oh,
and
setup.
And Nickelodeon, that was the history of early filmmaking in Hollywood. Great.
Thank you.
Somebody had emailed me and reminded me that there was a series that I had watched and I loved it, that Kirk Douglas produced, Tales of the Vikings. And we've heard that you were in that and shot in Scandinavia.
I was in about 30 of them.
Wow.
I was a Lichtdubel. I was the stand-in, Lichtdubel, German. We shot it in Munich for Jerome Cortland.
Who was the lead?
Who was the leading man, and he was 6'6", so I had to wear these big blocks on my shoes so that I could stand in for him. But that's how I got my start, actually.
And did you have any roles in
Yes, I
those
did.
too?
Firebeard's dragon ship, we can give chase. I still have it stuck here.
I'd love to see those. Do you have any of those?
No, I don't know what happened to it, actually. It was a syndicated series for Bryna Productions.
Bryna, Kirk Douglas.
And they had all the costumes, and they had the long ships, and they had a village on a lake outside in Bavaria. So when they finished the movie, they thought, why not do a TV series? We have all these costumes and these boats. And so that's how that came to.
A great production values. The movie.
Buddy Bear was in it, and a wonderful actor named Walter Barnes, who had played for the Philadelphia Eagles first before he was an actor.
And he went to Italy and made a lot of spaghetti westerns.
He sure
after
did.
that.
He
Yeah.
sure did. He stayed in Europe and I got lots of work.
From out of the north, like an icy wind, swept Odin's warrior breed. With broad axe and spear, they followed a star, adventure and glory their need. They conquered the seas in their dragon ships, fought bravely on many a land. For while he remains, right down for the man who dies with a sword in his hand. The Vikings, the Vikings, the Vikings, take well in the Highlands.
Another show that you did was PEYTON Place. It ran for 5 years. You did
Just 500
yeah,
episodes.
500 episodes of PEYTON
Drew the
Place.
line at 500.
That's enough. Well, that show was so popular, it was on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, as I recall.
And before you were born, it was on 3 nights a week. They added a night. It was so successful, they added an additional half hour.
So when it first premiered, it was only on once a week?
No, it was always twice. And then after 2 years, they added an episode. We were on 3 times
Wow.
a week. So the actors were always going back and forth, looking at their lines, wondering, where are you going? He said, I don't know, I'm going
Yeah, one of the great actresses, she did terrific Westerns. Dorothy Malone was in that series as well. One of the
Good
leads.
woman, very decent woman, for sure. I had no idea that she had such a wonderful career. I would have asked her more questions.
She was an Oscar winner.
Because she never talked about it. She was very
Well, a great actress.
shy. She was shy. But also Mia Farrow. Can't forget about Mia. She was breathtaking, to tell you the truth. I'd never seen anyone like her.
Now, in the middle of the show, isn't that when she cut her hair so short?
Well, yeah, she did. She did. They claimed it was because she didn't get invited to Frank Sinatra's 50th wedding anniversary. 50th birthday. But
Wow, glad we cleared that up.
birthday, it was his birthday. But she said, I asked her, I said, because of his birthday, you cut all your hair off? Because she did it. They did the master with her hair down to her waist, and then the close-ups, there was no hair anymore. So they had to reshoot everything. And she claimed that she saw Barbara Parkins in the hairdresser. She was combing her hair, and then looking at it, and then combing it forward, and like this, and combing, and she's watching. And she said, how important is hair in life? And she opened a drawer, and in the drawer was a pair of pinking shears. That's all she needed. She cut it herself.
Well, Ryan, I want to thank you for joining us
done.
today. Yes, you are.
Well, is there lunch?
There's going to be lunch. There is lunch following this, but you're not done. One more question then.
Sure. I'll tell you anything.
All right. When you were growing up,
Yeah.
Westerns.
Yeah.
I was so influenced by them, and so were so many of the people here today. Did you have favorite Western stars?
Jimmy Stewart and Winchester 73.
Wasn't that a great film?
Yeah.
Anthony Mann.
And of course, my dad's movie. I remember when it opened, he took all the kids in the neighborhood. We climbed in the car and we drove to see it. Westerns were wonderful. There was no. That's what you wanted to see were Westerns. And they had tripwires. There were things that get done to the animals in those days that you wouldn't want to do today.
That you're not allowed to do today.
And you're not allowed. They have somebody on the set always. But we had wonderful stuntmen in those days, too. And my favorite actors were like Whip Wilson and Lash LaRue. Yeah. And I saw Gene Autry. I went to now you go to rock concerts. Well, in those days, you went to see your favorite cowboy actor. He would be on stage, he'd sing a few songs, I remember his horse had guns for their bite,
In the bit.
I thought that was amazing. You'd always reach for one of those if he needs it. And I was about 6, but there was Gene Autry.
Pretty fancy. And now here you are at the Autry Museum.
And my son works for the Angels. He's
Really?
a broadcaster for Fox, but his job is for the Los Angeles Angels, which was Gene's team.
His real love.
Yeah.
Well, we love Westerns, and we love having you here, Ryan.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. That's it.
I'll just stay here.
Again. Okay, now get off the stage.
Okay. Thank you. He wants it back.
All right, I do.